told you in our first conversation that I appreciated that you had a process. That was really the key differentiator for you. If you aren't articulating that on your website, you may never get that first qualifying call.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business. Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today, I am thrilled to bring you something extra special. It is a listener favorite that is absolutely worth a second listen. In fact, we've only ever aired this episode once, which I cannot believe. This episode originally aired a couple years back, but the insights are just as powerful and even maybe more relevant today. In this episode, I sit down with two of my real-life clients, Kelly and Glen, who graciously agreed to share their entire design journey, from researching designers and choosing to work with me to what made my process stand out and how the experience impacted both their home and their business. These two also happen to run a very successful digital marketing agency, so their take on branding, authority, and client experience is top-notch. Honestly, guys, this conversation is gold for any interior designer or creative entrepreneur who wants to better understand what clients are really looking for and how to build trust and credibility from the very first phone call all the way to the final reveal. So whether you're tuning in today for the first time or you're listening to this again, I promise this episode will not disappoint. It's going to leave you inspired and full of ideas to elevate your own process. All right, let's dive back into my episode with Kelly and Glen. Okay, I am here with Kelly and Glen. I can't believe it. This is a very exciting day for me because you are the very first clients that I have interviewed for the podcast. You are the brave souls willing to put yourselves out there. I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie, but I'm excited. Maybe why don't we just start with you introducing yourselves to everybody?
Okay, great. I'll go first, Glen, and then you can go.
Ladies first.
My name is Kelly Patchet. And first of all, we're delighted to be here. It's always fun to be with you, Rebecca. We always have a lot of fun together. And so, I think I will say that Glen and I started a marketing company in the early days of the web. Like, I can remember being out for dinner in Toronto and hearing people say, we're going to build a website, and we'd be so excited because that was our business. That's how old we are.
Oh, stop it. You're not that old.
But since then, we were digital marketers, and we own a company called Quarterback Digital. And really the differentiator is, occasionally we still build websites for clients, but we live on the side where our clients make their money now. So we run their digital marketing for them, and we drive traffic, we generate leads, and we help turn leads into sales. So that's what we do today. And I think we're excited to talk to you today too, because we are not only the lucky people to have a Rebecca Hay Design condominium now, and we could talk about that process, but we're, because we're marketers by trade and we deal with thought leaders in particular all the time, we could talk about our experience through a particular lens that I think might be helpful for all the people who follow you.
Awesome. Yeah, totally. I'm so excited. One of the things, and Glenn, I am going to let you talk, but 1 second. One of the things I do remember is from one of our first meetings. I'm not sure if it was in the consultation or just on site, but just starting to learn about your business and just we hit it off chatting about the business side of business and the marketing side. And just sort of remember being there, like just standing there in your kitchen forever. And we were like, oh, if we know we were going to be chatting this long, we should have sat down, right? Because there's just there were so many great things to talk about and learn from each other, and me more so from you. But anyhow, I'm really excited to kind of dive into that knowledge today. Glenn, what do you want to add? Oh, sorry.
Oh, hold on 1 sec. Glenn's used to me saying, hold on, hon. That's nothing new, right?
If you can't see the screen, he's checking his watch, wondering how long she's been chatting for. No.
Well, I just will say before we leave that thought is that having gone through the renovation process, there's so many things that I learned about going through this process that I can apply and that I am applying to my own clients too. So it's interesting because it's a big deal when you do a renovation, and, it's good to be in the shoes of the customer and to think about how other people purchase things. So it's, all in all, it's a great big deal, and you learn things from it.
Totally. Well, I can't wait to hear what you learned. Hey, Glenn, do you have anything you want to add?
I am Kelly's husband. And everything that Kelly said was true. I think I just want to add that what I've noticed that we're all in is the creative services department. Whether we're designing websites, marketing programs, interiors, exteriors, floor plans, whatever that we're in, we're all in the creative services delivery business. And so I always feel that the one thing that I've learned over the years is just managing expectations. And so that's one of the things that I've kind of picked up over the years is it's not so much the technical plumbing of what we do and delivering, things that we say we're going to deliver, but it's really managing the relationships and managing expectations that really makes the difference in this business. And because what we do is so bespoke, it's so custom, it's so different, it's so changing all the time. And I say changing from an industry perspective, but it's also changing from a customer relationship perspective. And especially on the product that you're delivering can change, especially in your business throughout a project lifetime. So that's kind of what I took from it. And I thought how similar we are in the roles that we deal with. It might be a different product, but the way we go about our business and interact with people, there's a lot of similarities there. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
So interesting. It's true. Like so many of the lessons that I experienced through this podcast with other guests and just even sharing my own experiences really do apply to just creative entrepreneurs. And I even had someone say to me once, she was like, Rebecca, like your podcast really isn't just for designers. It could be like, I tell all my friends about it, and it's not about my podcast, but it's the idea that you're right. We have such similarities in the way and the type of service that we're delivering. It's a different product. It's a different experience, but it is a very similar creative endeavor. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just start right off the bat, because I haven't even talked about the fact that I said that you guys are my clients. So you hired me to renovate, or our firm to renovate and design your condo, your amazing condo. Ugh, it's amazing. It's the best views. But I would like to kind of take it a step before you hired me, because I think it'd be interesting to hear your experience of trying to find a designer. What was that experience like? How did you go about finding an interior designer? And then why did you, end up settling with us?
Good question.
Kelly, we can't hear you. I can hear you down the hall in Glenn's background, but yeah, I muted me just to reduce the thing. Here I am. I'm back. Yep. Well, I think, Glenn, when I think about this, I think that when I look back on it, the first thing I told myself was that don't fall in love. So what I wanted to do first was I wanted us to promise ourselves that we were going to talk to 3 designers at a minimum. So I didn't want to fall in love with somebody's personality and then not check the other boxes that were important to us. And so we had a not a huge, like we're researchers by nature. And I think you know that by now.
Yes, I have learned that.
So, there were some criteria for us. So we wanted somebody that's done condo work. So if everything that was in their portfolio was freehold houses, we didn't want ours to be the first condo. We wanted people to have, at least our bar is pretty high when it comes to websites because we're in the business, but we wanted a professional sort of web presence, on top of, like, you're very involved in Instagram. And so, but I'm still going to come to your website just to make sure that you look like you have it together there.
Legit.
Well, in our business, and you've probably heard this before, it's all about authority. And so, if you can't be found in a simple Google search and we can't do your research, at least online, see sort of the baseline for what I expect someone running a design-oriented business, then of course, that's going to be a quick filtering process. Like I said, Kelly said, we're researchers. And I think it goes towards, this is one of the biggest probably expenses that you'll make next to buying a new home or a condo. So, to the two of us, it was something that we felt, for two people that could turn 3 days away, a long weekend, into 6 days of research, something like this turned into like a second job of understanding, what are we getting into? What can we expect? Who's out there? I don't even know where to begin. So it was like going down to the rabbit hole, but it was so worthwhile, wasn't it? Just doing the research part of it to get a sense for our taste and who's out there. And I mean, we live in a great age right now where we can go on Instagram and get a sense for what people are doing and how they express their projects and how they work. So I felt that was a good start, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. And, like Google reviews, things like that, having your customers, some kind of third party validation. And I think we're looking for, we weren't looking for whoever did Drake's Place. Let me put it that way.
I know who he is, and he's amazing.
So, if all they do is like high end monster homes, it's probably not going to be the right fit. So we were looking for a little bit, but we wanted to see like a little bit of high end, a little bit of, okay, I think that looks about right. And then we decided, okay, here's 3 people that we want to reach out and just have a conversation with and see how that first call goes when we call and say, hi, we're considering doing this.
Yeah, because it's intimidating. I mean, you go out there and you start researching this and you realize like some designers can be really intimidating. Their portfolios are really impressive. And you think, do we measure up? Will they be interested in our work as well as, can we work together? And so, we were looking for that initial call. How's it going to go? Is there a human connection here? Is there a way that, we're going to hit it off right off the bat? That's what mattered to me, because it's going to be a long time building a relationship with whoever we're going to work with. And I wanted to know right from the beginning that there was some kind of connection, that, they were listening to what we're looking to do, and that there was some kind of, I don't know, it's like dating. You don't want to know that there's a connection right off the bat.
I think what it is a balance you're looking for. Somebody's going to listen to you and respect who you are, and they have some diversity in their portfolio. So not how some designers, they have a look, one look, and that's what you're buying. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But we wanted to make sure that we met somebody that could take us where we didn't even know we could go, but also respect who we are as people too. So one part leadership, which we need and wanted, and one part understanding that, it's our home and we have to live in it at the end of the day. So that was sort of our criteria and the way that we sort of approached first calling you. And then it just became like a couple of people, we went to their websites and it was a quick no, because it was just too not professional enough.
So I'm just going to interject here. So designers, if you're listening, the website matters. Because I know we talk so much about social media, and I know this is getting into a little bit of the marketing tips, but we talk so much about social, and it is important. And to have like your pretty pictures on Instagram, that is so important, right? But you still need that website because people, like you say, they need validation from multiple touch points. I think if I'm hearing what you're saying correctly. And obviously, I think you guys are exceptionally poised to appreciate that because of your work that you do. You really value that. But I think that's really interesting because even if you don't have a nice looking website, you could be very good and very professional. But if that's not the face you're putting out into the world, then the potential client doesn't see that. Yeah,
that's right. And I don't want to put the cart before the horse because I know we're going to talk about process. And I told you from the in our first conversation that I appreciated that you had a process. That was really the key differentiator for you. But my point right now is if you aren't articulating that on your website, you may never get that first qualifying call. You may not even get that first, consultation fee. If I can't see that you have a process, and that may be more difficult on Instagram to articulate. I would call that a more mid-funnel, like you're in that journey towards the purchase. You're getting warmer, right? And so at that part, I'm going to your website and vetting you to make sure that you look legitimate, you've got experience. And then I see that you have a process that's published on your website. Maybe you don't go into the details of it, but I know that you have something, and then I want to have a conversation so that we can explore that more. Yeah, that's definitely what we found.
I would say to add to that, even to establish authority, if you've only ever worked on one project and you have a great set of photos of the project you worked on, that's all you need. I would say just to establish your bona fides that you've done a project and you can prove it. And I can walk through something that you did, you explain it to me, you write it in a way that how you did the project. But I just want to say as a baseline, these are baseline things, but we even reached out to a few people that never even got back to us. And I always say that's the cardinal sin. Like you reach out, you expect a response, and not to hear back was surprising, but it's not unexpected. It's like that in every service business. I find you reach out and you don't hear back. And I think by meeting that minimum requirement, you're probably outperforming a lot of other people that just don't take the time to follow up. And follow up is follow up. You hear it, but a lot of people don't practice that. And so I found that interesting when we were doing our research. We'd reach out and then wouldn't hear back, or maybe hear back 3 weeks later. So, be responsive, whether it's on social media and engaging people, have questions about what wall color that is or where you source that lamp or whatever. I mean, it's important, especially if you're starting out, I think, to engage with your audience, and especially if it's a sales inquiry.
So true. It's so funny. Like I was always pretty bad at the follow-up because I'm like most creative entrepreneurs running around like crazy. Like you're just so busy. And especially in the early days, it was just me, right? So I'm in the car, I'm on my phone, I'm running here, I'm running there. Oh, I forgot that. I forgot to pick the wall covering or whatever. Whereas now on the other end, having a podcast has been interesting, and being on the receiving end of people trying to pitch me because they want to be guests on my podcast. I see the power of the follow-up, because often what happens is it's not that I don't want to get back to that person. I'm just busy doing other things. And so they follow up with me, and then they follow up again. And quite often I'm like, oh yeah, no, I definitely want you on the podcast. Thanks for following up like the 4th time. So I think for designers listening, if you're not doing the follow-up, you need to start. And just because somebody doesn't get back to you when you email them to follow up, it doesn't mean they're not going to hire you. It could just mean that they're in the middle of some life crises. They could be doing something else. It's such a big decision for them to make that it's like when you get that email from the long lost friend and you set aside, you like want to sit down and have time to write that email. I don't know if anyone else does that. I do this. And then what happens is it takes me like 3 months to write that person back, when really it is a top priority item, but it's easier just to do the quick things. So the power of the follow-up, totally.
Yeah. And that can be built into your process as well, because if you can't do it yourself, like you said, you're very busy. I call it juggling chainsaws and kittens, and you're wearing many different hats as you're trying to get it all done. I would say then outsource that to a person.
I've never heard that. That must be just a Glen thing.
TM. You can outsource that to either someone, if you have an employee that can manage incoming leads, or you outsource that to a virtual assistant. It's very base level. You'll have someone in your organization. If it's not you, then build it into your process, or even your email autoresponder to let them know, I may not get back to you right away. Set the expectation that maybe it might be a day or two, and therefore you've set the table of expectations, and then they know what to see next.
Oh my gosh, amazing. So I'm about to launch, or I've actually just launched. Actually, this podcast goes live when my Power of Process course is it's open for enrollment. And the whole point behind that process course is I teach designers how to create a process that is unique to them so that they can give their clients that experience, but it also isn't cookie cutter. And so I'd be interested, because I know we had a conversation once, standing in your kitchen again, about how, what you just said, Kelly, like one of the differentiators, and I might be skipping ahead here, but this just made me think when Glen said that one of the differentiators between myself and other designers is that I actually had a process. So that was one of the reasons, maybe. And also you watched my YouTube channel, I think, but I'll let you share that.
Yes, that's right. We did, for sure. Yeah, the process thing was big for us. I mean, I think it was the big thing. It was the game changer, I would say, because when you have a process and it shows, I've done this before, it paints a picture of what to expect. And it's something that the buyer can wrap their head around. So it really, more than you realize, it really demonstrates to your prospect, this isn't my first rodeo, and you're in good hands, and we're going to do this. And once that's satisfied, then we're going to go here, and there's going to be a payment due on here, and then we're going to go here, and then this is what's going to happen now, and this is where you'll do this, and we'll do this. And it's like, okay, I can wrap my head around this, because everybody going into a renovation, and for us, we did our whole condo at once. So we have had a home office for 20 years here. And so we were ready for COVID. But
COVID ready.
But we're busy, and we knew that, we're not going to mess around with a kitchen, and then we'll maybe down the road, then we'll do a bathroom. And it was like, no, we wanted for our own sanity, and we wanted a singular vision to be seen throughout the whole place. And so we wanted somebody that was going to be able to manage that for us, that could demonstrate that they knew what they were doing. And that's what a process does.
Especially if you're offering a premium service. And that is what you provide. It's a premium service that we can literally walk out the door and you handle things from A to Z, and all the communications and back and forth. And you communicated that also in the early stages, that this is a premium service and this is what to expect. And by having that process laid out, it's like that kiosk, the first thing at the mall when you walk in. Remember malls? Remember we used to go to malls? You walk in the front door and you see the map that says you are here. There's a sense of calm that lets me know I'm at stage A, or the first rung in the ladder of where we're going. And I can see the roadmap ahead. And that process, like Kelly said, it gives me that expectation that, okay, this isn't your first rodeo. Maybe it's your second rodeo. But by simply having a process, again, I get back to that authority. It establishes you have authority in this domain because you can prove that you have a framework of walking me through the entire project that's going to make me feel at ease, that we're going to get there, and we're going to get there this way. And I don't know if you want to speak ahead about the YouTube video, because I felt that played a role in the authenticity department, because I think that's important. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that later, but
while we're talking about it, for sure. I want to ask you about the very beginning of the process. So I don't want to forget that, but I want to hear about let's do this chronologically, shall we? Tell us about the role that YouTube played.
Well, okay, I'll speak first, and Kelly, you let me know if I'm on target or not. But I felt like it's the first thing you do. You're on Instagram, your thumb's cramping up from looking through all the different portfolios. Then we found you on YouTube. And the thing that I remember from you on YouTube was your authenticity. So being authentic, I thought was, I sort of stood back for a minute and watched you doing this project where you were doing it, the reveal, and you were explaining, showing everything that could happen during staging, and just sort of like, it was warts and all, that it was a way that, not everything is going to go smoothly in this project. And that is standard in any renovation. And I thought, you're wearing it right out in the open, saying, everything may not go as smoothly as it should. And that is to be expected in any project that you work in, especially when you live in a condominium like we do, where you tear down the walls, you don't know what's behind it. There's bulkheads, there's plumbing. And I thought, I really appreciate that amount of candor and openness to say, hey, stuff went wrong. Here's what we did to deal with it. And it really worked out well for the client in the end. And I thought, anybody who's willing to be open and authentic like that on YouTube and film it, I thought, that's the kind of person I want to deal with, because when stuff does, hit an S turn and you need to go in a slightly different direction, you're going to let us know. And I felt that demonstrated a sense of honesty to me that I felt drew me closer to your brand and what you were representing. So I felt the YouTube video really supported everything that I was viewing on your website and when I was reading on Instagram. That was sort of like the warts and all, here's what it's like behind the scenes, and guess what? It's going to be okay. And I like that.
Yeah, I'll jump in there because that's exactly, there's no surprise. We're on the same wavelength as usual. I think on top of the process, the one thing that's very memorable for me, Rebecca, is that you were very upfront, and this is just a tried and true marketing technique. It's just good practice. Let's not even call it a technique because it sounds gimmicky. But you called out, things can go wrong in a renovation. There's often speed bumps along the way. That's going to happen. Expect it. And it's the way we roll with the punches that is important. And that really stood out to me, because anybody who's spent half a minute on HGTV or, any of these reno shows knows that something's going to happen. And I felt like our reno, COVID aside, like timing aside, our reno went surprisingly smoothly. I never felt like there was like a ginormous issue in the middle of it, but I was prepared for it. And I knew that you were prepared for it. And it's sort of like minimizing things that people know darn well could happen is not the way to go. Shining a light on people's objections and overcoming them is the way to turn prospects into buyers, right? Because
I'm writing that down. That was really good. I'm writing that down.
You really, as marketers in emails for our clients and things, the thing that you do is you take those things that are objections to people and you highlight them and then overcome them. And it's just like, you may be worried about this, and that's a legitimate worry. And it's probably because you've been here before, but here's how this is going to be okay. And then you reassure. An objection is just an opportunity to reassure somebody. So I think you did that really well, whether you were as intentional about that as you meant to be, but that we looked at that and went, okay, it's like if something goes wrong, that's why we're hiring you. That's why we're paying the fees for a designer and not trying to be our own GC on this. Because, you get all the prices in, and we could talk about budgets and stuff like that, but you get all the prices in it and you have that half a second. It's like, well, could we go this alone and just sort of hire a contractor? And then like for a hot second, you have that. And then you think, oh, hell no.
I mean, you can, and you're welcome to.
Everything has a cost, that's for sure. But I agree with you about objections, raising them early and dealing with them early. And it's kind of like, I imagine if you were a couples therapist, it's the same kind of advice I give them. If you have objections in your relationship, know what they are, raise them, and air them out before they become a problem. And you'll just get respect for it, because I think that, if you mention that, whatever the objection could be, it could be a paint color, it could be the payment schedule, it could be, you name it. Just bring it up, address it, talk it out. If you don't, it will become a problem. They'll respect you if you bring it up and deal with it.
And I think one of the things, I was just going to say, finally on the process thing is that when you have a process, then your contract with us also echoes that process.
Mm-hmm.
And so people know, like for you in your business, which is so important, you've set the expectations. Everybody knows who's going to do what and what's in scope and what's not in scope, what's allowable and what's a little like, we don't want to go there. And then the relationship gets off on a solid ground that way, I think. So I think that the expectations are set. Everybody knows what to expect. And then it's the foundation for a good relationship. So if you do hit the speed bump or two along the way, you're in a much better place to work together as a team to solve it.
That's right. It's also keeping it on the rails.
And I think part of that has been like what we've developed in our process that you've seen. And I'll talk about this in a minute, but since we've actually redeveloped our process, and it was actually through going through your project and COVID, and we kind of decided to really tailor, I've told you this already, but, and reduce our steps and sort of fine tune the process. But the beginning is like that, like you say, that first touch point is that call. It's that discovery call. And that's why I follow a script per se. I mean, now I'm able to kind of just have a conversation and I don't forget things, but I tell designers all the time and I share my discovery script with people, because if you can make sure you're hitting all those points in that call and you set those expectations from the get-go, then when you see them in the consultation, you reiterate that. And I'm glad you brought up the contract, because something that I did with you that I've done now for a while is walk people through the contract, because sometimes as a creative, you're nervous to say, well, can I put a sign on your lawn? Or, I mean, that didn't apply to you, or, can we photograph it or whatever it might be? If it's on paper and you just use your contract, it's kind of the backup, but it also then brings up anything and it allows your client, in this case, you guys, in person, to be able to object or ask questions. And I don't remember if that happened or not, but it's like when you leave that consultation for the designer, you feel like you've put it all out there and there shouldn't be anything left to be wondered about. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the process is outlined obviously in the contract.
So you sell an expensive service. We sell an expensive service as well. We're both selling consultative expertise, but we both do as well. Like there is an execution component to what we do, and our services are expensive too. And so, what you're really doing is something that we subscribe to in our business, which is replacing presentations. So there are presentations, but it's conversational. You have a conversation with the client. It's back and forth. It's give and take. You're listening as much as you're talking, because you can only give what the client wants if you know what they want. And so you have to be listening. And so that reviewing of the contract with them, we have a rule in our business is that we don't write big, long proposals anymore. We have conversations where we're getting to the point with the client where we're all agreeing, yeah, we're going to do this together. And then really the proposal is just a very short document outlining what we've already agreed on. And so, but we never lob that over the fence for them to review on their own. We then schedule, just like we did, a meeting to sit down and review their options, anything left to decide. And then it's just a matter of, instead of like wringing your hands and hoping that you're going to close the deal with your new client to do their renovation or whatever it is that you're going to do for them, you've gone through it. And if you're right, you have that opportunity right there and then to say, okay, what does this mean? Or will I be able to do this or that? And you overcome those things and they sign on the dotted line and you close that deal and move on to the next step. So I think all of that was handled really well and really similar to what we do in our business too.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I always feel too, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask about budget, but finish your thought first.
Well, I was just going to say mindset wise, it's just, those initial calls, I realize that you're qualifying us as we're qualifying you, that you want to know we're easy to deal with as well, because if you're lucky enough to turn down business or say no to business that you don't want to work with, I think that's an important position. I mean, it's a lucky position to be in, but also that it is a conversation, as Kelly said, that we go into every new conversation we have with a client. Can I help? And if I can't help, then, it's best for you to find someone else who can. And I think with that attitude in mind, you think, is this a project that I want to work on? Can I make a difference with this client? Is this a project that I can make a difference with? Coming in with that right kind of attitude will set you up for really good conversations moving forward, working together with that future client. And I think that mindset of, can I help? Rather than, I really, really need this deal to come through. It's just a mindset thing, thinking, I'm here to help. More like I'm not going to say a doctor, but can I help you with this problem that you have in design? And from that standpoint, a conversation can bloom from there. And you'll know pretty quickly whether it's a fit or not. And I always approach every new client lead like that. Is this a good fit? And can I help? That's
yeah. And I think, and I tell this to designers, but it's easier said than done when you're starting out, is to trust your gut. And sometimes the client is not the right fit. I mean, I knew right off the bat, you guys were perfect, but sometimes we get this, like, you go into someone's house and you're like, oh, there's like a red flag, or there's kind of a bit of friction with the personalities, or there's something that the client says. And in the past, I've recognized, like, I can look back and tell you all the clients. I will not do that on air, but where I had that gut where I was like, oh, something's just, but I felt like I needed the job because I needed the income. And then, you know what? And then ends up not being as enjoyable an experience, because turns out your gut was right, and whatever friction was there just gets amplified when you are doing a design or renovation project. Now that I have a team working for me, I mean, I've learned that if there's clients like that, like, sometimes there's a certain team member that works better with that particular client. We had a project manager who was amazing. I miss her, who had to go because of COVID. You guys met her briefly at the beginning of your project.
She was great.
And she helped facilitate, like, before your job, with another client that I just was like, I can't go to that house anymore. I don't think I can personally, I'm not the right person to be in front of this client, because I know that I can't handle the situation as well as I should. And so she was the perfect person, and she was able to bring that project right to a reveal. And I was like, this is a miracle. Because if it had just been me, I don't think we would have made it to the reveal.
Well, that is, I think maybe your audience will find this helpful too, that even in your early days, and it takes some bravery, I'm going to put that out there, but if you can practice detachment in the sales calls, even the ones that you think, we're a good fit, I really want this job. If you can practice a little bit of detachment in that sale. And I think the very first call that we had, I say, when I'm on the selling side, I said it to you, Rebecca, and we had our very first phone call. And I said, look, my goal in this phone call is just to find out, do we think we're a good fit for one another? And I said to you, what I often say to my own prospects, it's okay to say no. At the end of this phone call, if you don't think we're a good fit, it's okay to say so. No hard feelings. And it's funny, when you're the seller and you say that to people, you seem less like the panting puppy,
Desperate. People smell desperation. And when you just let go a little bit, it's remarkable how much people will lean into what you're saying. So
I agree. And especially if someone's anxious and they're thinking, how much is this going to cost? And I'm starting to talk to this designer and I'm getting a little more committed, and I don't want them thinking that I'm serious. You remove that obligation and you put people at ease.
And it's certainly not arrogance.
No.
It's just in the spirit of are we a good fit?
Yeah.
Because I want to help you if I can. And if I don't think I can, I will let you know so that you can find the right person for you. And that is so benevolent when you think about it.
And that's part of why I in the past have certainly had a hard time saying no to clients that aren't the right fit, because I'm a people pleaser and I don't want to hurt their feelings.
I'm the same way.
That's so ludicrous when you really hear me say it out loud, but I know a lot of designers are like me. So that's why I'm saying it, because it's a real thing.
But everybody wants to be liked.
But we've all had clients that were the nightmare client, and avoiding that can be a real hit to your business, right? Saying yes to the wrong person will
keep you from working with the right person.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
So.
Okay. Let's talk about budget, because I know that you have some things you want to share. What was your thoughts on budget when we started our project? And I don't know, how did you think that we handled it? I don't even remember now what we were doing.
We brought you our suitcase full of money.
Oh, right, yeah.
Banknotes. And we went, opened it up. I went, is this enough?
No, bring me another suitcase.
Well, I think for us, like, our budget basically more than doubled from what we started at. But we knew that when we signed on the dotted line. We knew before we were into it what we were signing on for. But what I mean is, when we approached you, we had a certain number in our heads. And
I'm not going to say it was a realistic number. It's just a starting point.
It seemed like a big number to us. It seemed like, okay, I think we could probably do it for this. But, by the time we got to the presentation and then we got the budget for it, I won't lie, I got in the car and almost had a panic attack because it was a lot more. However, it's a learning experience. And in that moment, your clients are going to do one of a couple of things. They're going to go, no way. What can we do for what we told you our budget was? Because there legitimately is no more room. Like, that's it, right? And that could be. And then they're going to either not go ahead, or you're going to scale it down to what they can do now, and maybe they'll do later. You guys are the pros. You'll know what to do in that situation. In our case, I like to think that we're pretty realistic people, and we did realize even before the presentation what we're asking now that we were out of touch. We hadn't done anything on our home. We hadn't spent any money on our home in ages because we knew it was going downhill, and we didn't want to put anything into it until we really had a vision for the whole place. And so, we were simply out of touch with what things cost.
Well, I would say uneducated buyers, right? And I remember you were having, sometime in the summer, you were talking to your sister and you mentioned the number that we were thinking of starting at. And I remember she plain out just said, it's going to be more than that, more than you think, right? And that's part of the education process. I mean, when clients start out, they pick a number out of the air and they think that's going to be the number that they're working from. And it can either be based on discussion they had with someone else or hearsay, but it's designer's job to educate someone on the project that, yes, we can go to Mount Everest with this project. And it's really about showing what's possible, because I think it's your job to show them what's possible, that if you want to do everything within reason, to do everything, here's where we would, start at the summit, and then work down from there and be, if that's too much, then let's work down and iterate where we can find a place where all your needs are going to be met. The things that are important get taken care of, and we can make compromises where it doesn't matter as much. And again, it's an education process, because there's so many facets to especially with our renovation, there's so many different aspects to it. We really just had to go down and pick and choose what mattered most to us and then work from there. And as a designer, you took the reins and were responsible in showing us from a budget perspective where we could really keep value and where it didn't matter so much. And so I think that's really a huge part of it as well. That comes with experience, and showed again, you've done this so many times before that we understood.
By and large, we stretched up to that number, but we axed a couple of, things that we liked, but didn't have to have, and that could come later. Yeah. We also invested, and we actually upped the spec on a couple of things that we thought it's worth spending a bit more on this, because it's an investment piece. I think that there's things that you can go a little cheap and cheerful on. And then there's other things that you should, well, if we're going this far, that became sort of, well, as long as we're spending this much.
I do remember though that line item. We did cut out the solid gold toilet bowl with the diamond flusher.
Yes! I would never specify that.
From the Saddam Hussein collection.
Yeah. But you know what? It's actually interesting. So I had two takeaways from that, from hearing you guys talk about budget, is one, for designers, there's an opportunity, I think, a slightly missed opportunity in the design industry to educate the general public and potential clients on budgets and cost of things. It's something that we've done in the past, doing blog posts, putting it on your website, talking about it on Instagram, like the real costs of things. Yes. So that's one thing. But the other thing I think is really interesting, and I realize now, since I worked with you, I have tailored my process. And one thing that we have now introduced that I don't think we did with you, no, we definitely did not, is you would have liked this, is before presentation, we do a concept and budget review now, and it's via Zoom. And so it's about 2 to 3 weeks after trade day, which you guys are familiar with when we come through with all of our trades. And it is an opportunity because here's the thing. Your project's not the first one where we were like way over budget. In fact, in the past, I have expensive taste in case you didn't know. And so in the past, sometimes what's happened is we didn't necessarily know the numbers, and we have lost clients from presentation who decided not to move forward, right? Because they probably thought, wow, these people just totally did not respect our budget whatsoever, even though their budget was probably unrealistic, but I didn't educate them. Right. So I got better at educating clients coming up to you guys. And then I think a few projects after you, finally, I was like, we need to nip this in the bud internally. I'm like, something has to change. I don't want to be sweating numbers the night before a presentation. So we introduced the concept and budget review, which is now the opportunity for us to, we do the floor plans. We do mood boards just to show the design direction. We haven't selected anything, but we did it in Excel, and now we use a program, a budget based on all the items that we see in the room, right? So now we've started to think we want paneling on the walls. We want wallpaper. Maybe we want brass faucets, that type of thing. So we start budgeting the numbers, and at that concept review, we can tell our clients, and it's just a ballpark, but we have a much clearer sense based on their project. So I can say it's coming in at around 100,000 plus construction, and construction, we don't know yet, but we're guessing this. And that, to me, and for designers who are listening, if you struggle with budget as I have, it really has been a game changer, because now when we go into presentation, first of all, the team now knows when they're sourcing, like their kind of allowance, and there's play, right? So if you find something, you can give or take. But if the client feels comfortable with the budget at that concept and budget review, then going into presentation, it makes our job so much more fun, because then we aren't guessing and trying to save money every which way. We come into presentation, and I think our last presentation, we were only like 5,000 over the budget that we presented at concept, which was so refreshing for us. And it's so much easier to get the clients to turn around and say, yes, and let's get rolling. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's always some tweaks, as you know, but yeah, so that is something that I've learned, and not just from your project, from other ones that were like, we were way off the mark. And that's, I think too, as a designer, we need to constantly be reflecting and looking at how we're doing things. And there isn't one cookie cutter way of doing things, because I was following a cookie cutter way, which worked well. But then as you start to see how you run a project or how my team works, there's an opportunity to always improve. I
have a couple of comments on that. So both of them has to do two different clients of mine. So coming out of this, I work with a client, and they as you know, we've talked about them, Rebecca, they build log homes, cottages, homes, timber frame homes. And so we did this whole lead generation thing for them, where people get clear on, because they custom design all the houses, like the floor plan for it. And so we help people get clear on their nice to haves versus their must haves through this lead gen vehicle on their website. And at the end of it, we say, what's your budget for your project? And they put it in. And my client sometimes gets frustrated because the budget is so far off of of the dream.
Of course.
So, right. But I've coached him a bit on this, and we've talked about that there are different kind of buyers out there too. Some people like us, we stretched we were just like, we needed education. And then we decided it's worth it. We value what's going to happen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we really valued, which, when you get back to that half a second, you think, could I just roll my own on this and I'll be my own GC? The thing that we really valued, and to know this from your customers as designers, I really encourage you to always follow up with your successful clients to figure out what did they value in the process, so you could echo that in your marketing to people who haven't worked with you yet. And it's really your customers hold the value. Like when people struggle, business owners struggle with their value proposition, it's your customers who know what the value is, right? And you need to ask them that to know that.
And so it's interesting. I was going to say, with those worksheets that you're talking about, people set that budget number, and often it's unrealistic, but it doesn't turn out to be, if they work with that client, it has no reflection in reality as to what the budget turned out to be. It was just a wild guess. I think I'm going to spend.
You're going to have tire kickers. Legit. Yeah. We all get tire kickers. You're going to get people who just need to be educated more, people who will stretch because they do want to realize the vision that they have, and they do have the means to do it. Or there'll be people that stick to their budget and the project gets tailored to the budget. And so you can't sort of don't assume that just because somebody sees a number and goes, that, they're one thing or the other. Try and figure out what type of buyer that they are. And the second thing is, and this really comes from my other great client who wrote a book called Pricing Creativity, which is amazing for whether you're a designer or our kind of design business and marketing company. But one thing you can do in pricing that is so helpful is that you create 3 prices for people. And so what that means is that it no longer becomes a zero-sum game. This is the budget, yes or no. It's not binary anymore. So you could say at the low end, we could do this, and this is what you'll be getting. In the middle, we could do this. And if you want to go all out, and really that all out number can be a little bit like really on the edge of more than they said, can show them what they want. It's really just in comparison, when they see that big number, that middle one becomes a lot more attractive. It's called anchoring high. So that's another concept to explore, that when you give people options, you're not making them say yes or no. And there's some really interesting pricing psychology that comes into play in that moment. So
I bet everybody goes for the middle one.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Which is probably up from their stated budget. Right.
Yeah.
It just shows that initial number is never, looping back to addressing objections early, conversations about money is probably number 1 or number 2 on the objections list, right? So there's someone had a famous saying that said, those who don't talk about money fail to make it. And I think that's fairly true, because if you don't address that objection early and walk through the process of, okay, well, is this a condition of, like, is the project getting out of control? What's your real expectation? Where can we spend it? Where can we cut? I think having those conversations early goes a long way to making the project move smoothly, but it has to be done early and out in the open. And I think that separates the professionals from the ones that are struggling to make it work, 6 months in, and the customer's still wondering why that the prices are out of control.
It really helped to have a contractor who never asked for another penny once we had signed the contract with them.
That's right.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. That's very rare. He just did another job for us, and I'm like, can you just make sure there's no extra invoices? Like, are you sure? Like, yeah, no, just the holdback.
Hang on to him.
What? No, he's great. But yeah, that is not common in our industry, to be honest. Most projects that I have worked on, there's all kinds of extra charges. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for that, not being surprised. And I think that there's a lot of value in not being surprised at the end of the project. Like,
That's
what?
right.
Now I've worked with many contractors, and that he is a gem. Yeah, for sure.
He
Now
really
everyone's going to be messaging me. Who is he? Who is he?
and I will say about him is that he had no internet presence. Just to get back to marketing again. So I did my due diligence on him too. And
he doesn't exist.
It's like he does not exist on planet Earth.
I think he's in the witness protection program.
And so I've been coaching him. And it's so funny because there's another contractor with almost the exact same company name. And I wrote a whole Google review for him, posted pictures, and then got an email that Saturday saying, I don't know who you are. Can you remove your review?
Wow. I'm surprised I didn't want to keep it. I'm sure it was a good review. So funny.
Glowing.
Okay. Well,
funny.
because, oh my God, I could talk to you guys for hours, but we are coming to the end of our time together. Before we sort of sign off, I know we wanted to talk, I think we've actually kind of somehow managed to weave in marketing with process this entire time. I don't know how you guys did that. You're magicians. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring to the forefront or talk about before we say goodbye?
I want to give you a compliment for one of the YouTube videos you did that I thought was really cool. Kind of spins off the pricing thing, but you had you leveraged a relationship with a mortgage broker, and you talked about what are the costs involved in moving to a new home, and all the land transfer taxes and the lawyer's fees and all the sort of expense. What does it cost to simply pack up and move versus renovating your home? And I thought it was gold. No one else is doing that. So frame it in a way that I can understand, where I can look at the costs that makes sense to me. And I looked at it and went, of course, like moving is expensive. There's all sorts of hidden costs and things involved in moving from one place to another. So while on paper, it may look great, you got your eyes on moving to that great house in Leaside. It's a whole new ballgame when you consider what the costs are involved. So your content and your interview with him was so good. I just thought leveraging that relationship and bringing other people in is always a smart play.
And what I will say is, first of all, we love our home. So you did an amazing job and we loved it. We love it.
It's beautiful. I want to live there.
I swear to God, every day, every evening, at some point, one of us says, oh my God, the place looks so happy. I love it. So thank you for that.
Yes.
We truly appreciate it. And especially for two people who always work from home, it's very important for our space. Like, honestly, like my backdrop here, I have a serious Zoom game now. And we look like a comparison, a couple of dorm room before.
for viewers that don't know what was behind, we had an old gray filing cabinet that looked out at Barney. Okay. All right.
But on a business, from a business perspective, and I know that you're doing, you're going ahead and teaching other people in your business how to sell their services with a focus on process. And I think that is extremely important. And It was definitely, I could say without a doubt, the differentiator for us. And we did talk to one well-known designer who was in our short list of 3 who, we didn't talk to her because it was just talking to an assistant. There was no access to her, which was also really, we weren't going to spend that kind of money and not be able to talk to the person ahead of time. But the process made all the difference for us. So I think what you're teaching is really important. And if you can learn that and develop I love the idea that you're doing not a one size fits all process, but a process that works for you and your customers and makes sense for your business. And then weave it into the contracts. I think learning that and then articulating some semblance of that framework on your website so that when people are doing their homework, before they ever say hello to you, they're vetting you. So get your ducks in a row and articulate what you're going to learn from Rebecca into your marketing. And then I think that you'll see a lift in in the leads.
That's awesome. And well, you know, that's why I'm doing Power of Process again, because we did it just before Christmas. It was such a great course. And I realized so the students who did the marketing course in the summer were asking about process, like wanted it. So I developed the course, and that's when I realized you need to do that first and then do the marketing. So this time around in 2021, we're doing Power of Process. And then in the summer, we'll get into the marketing. So people who now have their process that's established can move into the marketing side. So it's so true. You've got to weave the two together. I actually have one question for you that I know a lot of designers always fumble on and struggle with and don't know what to do. And I'm curious as a client, how do you feel about paying for a consultation? Because I tell designers all the time they need to charge for their consultation, which is their 2 hours or whatever meeting on site. And some people are scared to, some people do. How did you feel about that? Was that a turnoff for you?
No, you've got to charge for your time. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, this is such an easy question for me to answer. You've got to charge for your experts. Your time is valuable. People don't value what's free. If there's a $0 price tag on something, it's not valuable to people. You're just available. You're just there driving around Toronto, talking to anybody who will talk to you. People, totally. What you offer in that moment is valuable. You're setting sort of baselines for people. You're setting expectations. You're giving ideas, and those ideas are worth something. Right.
And you're qualifying someone as much as they're qualifying you. And if they're willing to meet that minimum bar, whether you're spending $50 for a consultation or $2,000 for a consultation, if they're willing to meet that bar, you know that they're at least serious about having some kind of conversation. Even if you're refunding that deposit against future services, they've met that responsibility.
You need to make yourself available to have an initial discovery call on the one or two calls before you expect them to give you that money. Because they want to make a connection with you. I think we did. I wouldn't have paid that money without talking to you first, Rebecca. That's for sure. I felt good about you. And so the $750, in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing, right? So nobody will look at you as an expert if you come to their house for free.
Such good, wise words. I love it. This is going to be probably the most listened to podcast because everybody wants to hear it from the client perspective, right? There's only so much you can learn from all the designers, but it's like, well, you keep saying your clients like this thing, but do they? Really?
Yeah, they do. Not only do, remember, the process isn't just to win the deal. The process should be about managing a project successfully. And it's successful projects that will have people like us more than willing to recommend you to other people. And it has that spin-off effect and leave you Google reviews. Have I done that for you yet? I must.
We probably haven't even asked you because it's in our process to ask you. I was just thinking that. I will make sure that we email you to get that review. That would be wonderful. Or go on to Google. Yeah.
You know, as you will no doubt be teaching, the process should be not only to land the deal, but to navigate a really successful project with the client, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
And, you know, for me, it's always been, it's one thing, and I feel like we're quite strong at the beginning, and then we still have bumps and hurdles to figure out internally as we go through the project. But for me, it's always, how does the project end? And I hate when things drag on, which is why I forced that early reveal on you because COVID is just such a I want to swear, but I won't. I hate it when things drag on and there's no, I loved working in television because it was obviously a short timeline, but it was boom, there's a reveal, everyone walks home and it's amazing. And when things trickle, I'm currently living through a reno that's trickling away as we wait for product that's been delayed. And it's just, you lose that fun, you lose that excitement. And then it's like that. I feel like the way a project ends is the taste that's left in your mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that make sense? You know, it's doesn't matter how good the meal was. If that last bite was sour,
oh, for sure.
That's what you think about.
Yeah. You've got to, I totally agree. And sometimes, like with COVID, there's a few things that trickled on with us for half a year, just waiting for there's nothing you could do. There's nothing we could do, but it's frustrating. And I so know that from a person that manages projects, that I think I was even saying to you at certain points, look, I know this must be, you just want to finish this project. I get that.
Yeah, of course.
Like it will end and we just all need to stay on it till it's over. But that's like in a very bizarre situation, And I totally agree with you. Like ending on a good note is the taste that's left in the client's mouth. And you want them to go on and sing your praises, right? Because they're going to bring, in addition to all your marketing, they're going to be the people that backstop, that kind of give you reviews, let people call them. So,
and that's the value process. I mean, everything has an arc, right? And to have that discipline to finish it on time, or at least the time that's reasonable, that process probably benefits you more than it does the client, because it keeps everything on rails. So I completely agree. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, guys, this has been amazing. Our time is up, so I have to say goodbye because it's been so fun. I could talk to you guys for hours. I know you guys aren't really active on social media. So is there any place you want people to go check out any of your clients, or you can give us a website if you want, or LinkedIn, or...
Yeah, you can find us on LinkedIn, but the best place to find us is on our website at quarterbackdigital.com. And so the reason we are quarterback is because we are the quarterbacks for our clients' marketing. So we're calling the plays for them. And so you can find us there. It's ironic because we're online for our clients all day long, but we are a little more private personally. So, but you can find us there.
Awesome. I just want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, Kelly and Glenn. You guys have been amazing clients, but thank you very much for taking the time today out of your super busy schedule to give me this beautiful gift of sharing on the podcast. I know that you are helping a lot of designers, and who knows who else. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's our absolute pleasure. We love spending time with you, and we love the subject matter. And I just hope that everybody who ends up taking your course benefits hugely, and that you all go out there and slay it.
Slay it. Awesome. Whew. What a conversation. Am I right? I still get chills listening back to this episode. A huge thank you again to Kelly and Glenn for being so open and honest about your experience, not just as my clients, but as entrepreneurs who understand the power of process, communication, and in clarity in any service-based business. If this episode gave you some little or big aha moments, or maybe reminded you of why your process matters, I want to hear about it. Please send me a DM on Instagram, share your thoughts in a review of the podcast. It truly helps this podcast reach more amazing designers like you. Until next time, keep designing your business and your life with resilience and intentionality. That's what it's all about. I'll see you soon.